Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Nat Walsh again. Today we're going to play with some Coco vanilla and this die from Paper Rose. This is really pretty. It's called, what is it called? Leaf Burst Rectangular Die. So it cuts out well, you'll see. It cuts out all the little bits and pieces with the leaf, and then we have this inner bit that you can use to make some like a pierced area. So this is the Coco Vanilla Daydream paper, and we're going to use some Wow Metallic Gold Sparkle embossing powder. I'm just going through the papers here to just sort of figure out which one that I want. This is the part that's probably was for me the most hardest, trying to figure out whether I wanted to go for the wood grain or whether I wanted to go for that grey. We're going to go for that grey, spoiler alert. But there's some really pretty ones in there. There's also another one that I'm going to look twice at before we settle for the other one. This one here. I thought that was really pretty. But in the end, I'm going to go for the grey. And it's sort of like a grey. It's sort of like greeny grey. It's hard to explain with all these white dots. Poke little dots. This one. It looks very great on the video. But in real life, it's sort of got the greeny sort of texture to it. I'm just measuring up my die because I just thought I'm going to be a little bit of a hoarder and I'm just going to use what I need and cut off what I need. So die cut that with just some white cardstock. It cuts out so well. A little bit of a tap, but honestly I didn't need it. I am going to cut this and bring in the Spellbinders Tool-in-One, which I don't know why I'm taking so long just to not bring it in, but there we go. This is just a bit of scrap piece of paper. What we're going to do is use the Versamark and just pounce it all over. I'm not particularly worried about the middle bits. Make sure it's got a good coating, and then using another piece of scrap paper, we're going to use this Sparkle Gold embossing powder. Spread that all around. What you don't see is I actually knocked it everywhere, hence in a little bit in between applying this, because we're going to apply 2 coats. I'm actually going to change my Fiskars mat because I knocked it all over the mat and I had to go and wash it. I couldn't get it off because the silicone mat is great for just grabbing hold of things. There's one layer. Adding the second layer. I've let that cool. Apply some more Versamark and we're going to do that all over again. And the great thing about leaving the center bit is that you still have that little bit of handle in between. You can hold your fingers in between. And the second load of embossing powder. And what this will do is it will make it thicker. It will also sort of make it just a little bit smoother on top. But I thought we'd give that a crack. Hopefully you can't hear the teenager helping himself to some lunch, which is great, don't get me wrong, but they do it so loud. Anyway, I didn't use foil cardstock because I wanted a little bit of sparkle, and I didn't use glitter cardstock because I just thought this would be a nice little blend and not too glittery and just have a nice different sort of texture to it. So just going to mark off where I want to cut. Trim that down. All the information will be over on my blog. We're going to put a little bit of black soot around the edge just for a little bit of fun. Something a little bit different. Well, I've been doing it a lot lately, but it just adds a little bit of interest to the card, and it softens that cardstock down a little bit. Just work our way around until I'm happy with how much I've got on it. There we go. Clean that all up. I've got people due back home very, very shortly. I've got teenagers trying to have some lunch, so I'm trying to do this in between interruptions, basically. I'm going to trim the cardstock down ever so slightly, and I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm literally probably not even taking a centimetre off the end of the card. It's probably like 7 centimetres, 0.7 of a centimetre. Just so I have a little bit of a even outline around it. I'm just going to put a bit of multi-matte medium around the edges and in the center. I'm not going to stress too much about the middle bits because you'll see it will hold it down perfectly. Put a bit of pressure on that for a little while. Don't worry about that center bit. We're going to use that piercing inlay bit to cover that all up. I didn't really see the point in doing the whole lot because no one's going to see it. That's how it's going to look once we've die cut it out. Now, I bought this pack of the Daydream words, but they're so big. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with it. I might have to just do some plain backgrounds and have some of these words over it. They're very much for scrapbooking, in my opinion. Like my, and then times, oh, days, ow, all this sort of stuff. They lend itself to, they're pretty, but they lend themselves a bit more to bigger layouts. So we've got the little ephemera pack. We're just going to flick through and see which ones I want to use. There's lots of little flowers, some little houses, and of course the rainbows you can see. And I like this. This one's pretty. It's just soft. The colours are really lovely. And that's going to be our card today. All the collectibles that we're going to put with it. Anyway, I've got a bit of scrap cardstock here. We're going to die cut that out. And it honestly, it fits it perfectly. It's like leaves a narrow little border. So it was perfect use of some scrap cardstock. I've got this Alter New stamp set, which I just love. I haven't used too many of the sentiments, but I really love this Just Breathe, and that's what we're going to use today. I'm going to stamp this down beforehand with piercing, or if you, any dies that have that piercing detail in it, any, if you're going to use embossing folders, stamp it out first so you have a nice smooth area. And I'm just going to put my die down here just to figure out my placings. Basically, keep up, hoard any little bits of cardstock that I use. I don't need to use. We're just going to make sure that our little sentiment is straight. I had a little bit of fluff on that, so we took that off. Stamp it with some Versamark Black Onyx Tuxedo Black. No, that's the Memento Black Onyx in the VersaFine, which is a great sticky, and it's just a great all-round black. I love it. Make sure that's all dry, and then we die cut it out. And it's a bit hard to see the details on that, but there'll be photos over on the blog and at the end of this video where you'll be able to see some of the, well, the photos actually will be on the blog where you'll be able to see some of the details. I'm not too sure. It can be a little bit hard to see the details in photos. I'm going to raise that up a little bit. I got a little bit too carried away there, so we'll just nip him off. And with the flowers, what I'll do is the pink flower, I will raise him up a little bit, like on one end, like the bottom of the flower. and then we'll glue him flat down to this panel. And then the blue flower, one side of it will be just single layers of the foam, and the other side will be double. So he's a little bit raised up higher than the pink flower, and even raised up higher than the Just Breathe panel. Just a little bit. That's how he's going to sit. Now I need to put this panel down on my card first. I don't particularly want anything sticking out on the sides, so we'll glue this down, and then it'll be easier to place all my little flowers without them hanging over. I mean, I don't care if it's like a tiny little bit onto the white or even off the card. I don't mind. I just don't want them to be hanging out too much. So I'll put in the Just Breathe panel into the card. That helps me to figure out where my placements can go. A little bit of glue. Slow process. These papers are really lovely. They're just nice and sweet. I've just cut a piece off, and we're going to raise that up. So if I put the edges together and then just run my fingers down the sides, that usually gets it relatively straight. Straight enough. Let's just say straight enough. This card again is for Leslie from Little Bits in Keysborough. Her information will be linked down below. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the little bell, and you'll get notified for whenever I upload another video. This is where we're placing our double width. Just trim off a little bit of end so we can't see him. And the only thing really left to the card is that we're going to put a little bit of stickles in the flowers. Oop. There we go. Yeah, that's going to be it. So yeah, all the information will be over on the blog, so feel free to jump over there and get the measurements or anything that you wish. There's no colouring, Leslie has the Daydream, Coco Vanilla Daydream papers and the front pack, and that's going to be our card. I hope you liked it. Thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Take care. Bye.